Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Kurt Buchanan, and on this channel we teach people about entrepreneurship. Today I have with me my friend Krista Forbes, who is a service business consultant who helps entrepreneurs just like you to leverage skills and knowledge to create digital products and generate passive income. Today I'm hoping for a very fruitful discussion, and hopefully you get a lot of value from this that can help you to transition into a servicepreneur. Krista Forbes.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm wonderful.
Okay. You seem very happy. That's awesome.
You know, when you're making passive income, you tend to be really happy.
Absolutely. All right. So I brought you on the show today to really deep dive into servicepreneurship, to teach the audience how to actually become a servicepreneur, which means creating services through their expertise and monetizing that through a digital format. So you are the expert in this field. You have been doing it for a while. So I'm sure you have a lot to share.
I do. I'm excited.
All right, awesome. So let's dive into it. First, I want to get to know a bit more about you, and I'm sure the audience want to know who is Krista Forbes before we actually dive into the meat of the matter. So if you could just share with us your background and what your mission is and what got you into this space in the first place.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I'm Krista, of course. I work with servicepreneurs and I help them to essentially scale their businesses, their existing service businesses, by leveraging their expertise to create digital products that generate passive income for their businesses on autopilot. So essentially, I started my first business when I was 17. I was about to graduate high school, and essentially my mom was an entrepreneur my entire life. So for me, creating a business was always my plan A. Like, you know, corporate 9-to-5 stuff was like my plan B. Like if all else fails, I get a job. So essentially I started my first business in high school, and what it was actually a college consulting business where I was helping student athletes who were just like me. I was a student athlete. I was working with student athletes who were just like me, helping them get college scholarships. So that was essentially my first time, one, starting a business, and two, creating a business based on my experiences and my expertise. So that's really how I got into the space. So I ran my business through college, and essentially by the time that I graduated, I wasn't in a place to actually jump into entrepreneurship full time. So I ended up running it as a side hustle. And when the pandemic hit, I was just so stressed out of my business. Like I was doing my 9-to-5, I was running my business, I was working a lot of hours in my business, and I was exhausted at one point. And something was just like, hey, what if you could, take all the work that you're currently doing with your current clients, because I'm still running this college prep business, I'm working crazy hours. What if you could take what you're currently doing and package it up into something that people can just kind of do by themselves without you? Like, what if you could do that? So I ended up doing that, and that kind of changed everything for me. So I went from being like super stressed, working my business nonstop, to now I'm making money every day and I don't have to interact with anyone. So I packaged everything that I knew that I was teaching on a daily basis, and I put that into a product that could stand by itself, and I sold it to my audience, and they were just like, we'll take it. So that's how I got into the space. And essentially my mission at this point is to teach other service providers how to do the same thing. So typically online service providers, how to take basically what they know and what they do and package that into something that can exist without them, so they can make money from that even when they're not working.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks.
So I'm here learning as well, right? Because though I'm an entrepreneur and I've been in this space for a while, I don't know everything and I don't pretend to know everything. So a lot of this will be fresh knowledge for me as well. So recently I went on your website and I realized that you were using a very specific term, productization. And I think you use it in your recently launched ebook as well.
Yes.
Right? Can you explain exactly what productization means, or productizing oneself means, and how it ties into being a servicepreneur?
Yeah, so I have this thing where I believe that like people who are currently servicepreneurs who are doing, so just to like be super clear, servicepreneurs can be anyone who's currently providing a service for money. So you could be a photographer, you could be a social media manager, you could be a brand strategist, anything really. As long as you're performing a service to get paid, you're a servicepreneur. So when I say productize, this is something that is has been around forever, but I think people are now starting to understand it. So servicepreneurs have always been able to monetize. If you can do the work and get paid, you're monetizing your skills. However, to get paid, like I said, you have to do the work, which means that there will always be a cap on how much you can make to make money, you have to show up to do the work. So what I want to introduce servicepreneurs to is the concept of productization, where you are saying, instead of trying to sell my time, what I'm going to do is essentially package my expertise and sell that. So what's the difference? The difference between the two of those is, one, you're trying to sell your time, and there are only 24 hours in the day. So it's and there's only one of you. So what are you really going to do? Like, to make more money, you have to figure out either how to price higher and maximize your time, or you have to hire more people and kind of use their time as well. But there's another option to make really, really great money, or almost make as much as you're making doing services, which is or even more, which is packaging what you know how to do, turning that into a product and selling units of that product. Okay.
So I want to get a bit more specific, because I think this is what will benefit the audience the most, right? So let's use an actual example, right? We know a lot of servicepreneurs. We know a lot of photographers, graphic designers, copywriters. You can pick anyone for an example.
Yeah.
But give us an actual example as to how someone who is in that space could actually productize themselves or create a digital product outside of what they typically do that they could actually use to generate passive income.
Sure. So my favorite example is like a social media manager. So you are essentially required to like create all the posts, you write all the captions, you're increasing engagement, you're making all these big promises, and it's like really labor intensive coming up with the content and stuff like that. So what you can potentially do as a product is, your clients have hired you because they have specific problems. So their problem could be that they don't know how to write captions that convert. So on social media, you want to create captions that move your audience from your social media to your website. So what you can do is, instead of saying, I will do that for you and I'll write out 30 days of captions for you, you can potentially sell a template package or bundle with like 30 days worth of captions for your clients, or for your existing audience who may not be your clients. So you can sell that maybe for like, let's just say $79 for like the package, right? But there's also another opportunity to say, okay, instead of giving you these templates, I'm going to create a training and I'm going to teach you how to actually create captions that convert. That way, you don't just have these templates that you don't really know what to do with. You can now buy this training from me, and I will teach you how to do what I do and get the results that I get for my clients.
Okay. So who is it really for? Can anyone productize? Can everyone productize? Is it for everyone? Who is it for? And how does one determine if what they have to offer can be productized, can be packaged and sold digitally?
So it's for everybody. If you perform a service, if you do anything, I believe that everybody has that thing that they do really, really well. I don't feel like any two people can, like, even if they get the same results, I don't feel like any two people do the same thing the same way. How you get from point A to point B, literally, and how another person gets from point A to point B is completely different. So I feel like anybody can actually create a product from their expertise and actually sell it. So how do you actually know if what you can do can be turned into a product? Think about the problem that you solve. If you solve a problem, you can turn it into a product. That's what products are. They solve problems. That's what services are. They solve problems. So if you currently solve a problem, you can create a product from it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so next thing I saw on your website, and something that you tend to talk a lot about on your social media, Instagram as well, is that you did 100K last year, which is amazing, by the way.
Thanks.
But one of the questions that I have, which I'm sure a lot of people will have as well, is how did you do it? How did you get from 0 to 100,000 in a year? What kind of skills are required for outside of your expertise, right? What else do you have to learn, and how did you learn it? What are some of your inspirations? Like, how did you actually get from 0 to 100K? Because that's not easy for any entrepreneur.
It is not easy. It was not easy. So I started out by being really strategic about what I was going to offer. So I want to say that it started with first being able to free up my time and actually say, okay, and look at what I was doing and say, how can I now package this and turn this into an offer that can exist without me so I can go focus on other things. So it started with packaging that first offer and saying, okay, I'm going to let it run on autopilot and creating a system for it to run on autopilot. And then once I had more time, space, and freedom, what I did was I focused on, okay, what do I do best? So at the time I was launching products. I was launching this product consistently, making consistent 4-figure months from it. So I was just like, I can package this now. I can package what I'm currently doing, even though it's in a different space, and I can help other people who want to launch stuff. I can help them to do it. So I essentially created a different product where I was providing my services. So I created a different product that was like higher end. I was saying, okay, these are my services and I'm going to help you do what I just did in my business. Right. And I essentially sold that and sold it a few times for a higher price. And that's essentially how I ended up crossing over into the 6-figure mark.
That's awesome, by the way. So congrats on doing that.
Thanks.
That's amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about like some of your inspirations, right? Or some of the people that you look up to, right? So for me, I've been in the space. I'm familiar with entrepreneurships and stuff. And I've read a lot of books, right? Some of my favorite books talk about productization as well. For example, The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And then you have the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. He also talks about productization. Are these people that actually inspired you, or is it that you just figured it out on your own? And even if you did figure it out on your own, are you inspired by any of these people, or who inspires you really?
So I actually just found out about Naval. So I'm actually reading his book now, and I saw him use the word productization. I was like, oh my God, he's copying me. I was like, no, this book came out before you. But it was really, really interesting to see that like things that I'm now figuring out and concepts that I'm now figuring out that I came to on my own, I am now seeing other experts who are, far more advanced than I am actually now championing these subjects and these topics. Like it definitely allows me to kind of see what the future holds for me. But in terms of them being my inspiration, no. So I'm just now learning about them now that I'm understanding like what I exactly do. But in terms of my inspiration, how I even understood packaging my expertise, it went back to college. So I ran my business in college, through college. The first 2 years of college, I made no money. Right. Like I made nothing. Like it was like I was putting in work day in and day out. I was stressed. I was hungry. I was, I had fire in me, but I was not making any money. I couldn't get anybody to pay me anything. Like right. I remember like pitching to somebody, hey, like, or selling to like a parent at the time. I was just like, hey, my program is like $68 a year. And they were just like, no. And I was just like, how much cheaper do you want this to be? It is like it's like $7 a month. Like you'll be fine. Right. You'll be fine. And they were just not with it. So I couldn't even sell a $68 product at the time. And then I actually discovered someone called Danielle Leslie. And she had a program called Course from Scratch. And she taught you how to actually how to monetize your expertise by creating a course. And that course actually gave me the foundation to finally understand how to put your expertise together in a way that people will actually see the value in it and want to invest in it. So for a long time, she actually was my inspiration. Before I could actually afford to work with her, I literally studied everything that she did. I studied her, like I signed up for all of her email list. I looked at every software she was using that I could of course see. Of course, she's going to have back-end stuff and people and stuff, but I essentially did everything that I saw her do, and it started to work for me. And I was just like, okay, there's something here. And I started to make money from that. And I was just like, okay, I have enough money to finally invest. Then I made the investment, and it literally opened up my entire world to being able to strategically package your expertise. So she was my first inspiration in the space. And then after I kind of finished her program, then I actually just like spent time now kind of figuring out what worked for me, because her framework is a framework. So the way that she teaches you how to do things is how she would do things and how she's teaching everybody how to get results. But every business is different. So I had to figure out, okay, how can I use this foundation and how can I tweak it and how can I make it make sense for me and how can it work for my business?
Awesome. Danielle Leslie?
Yes.
Leslie, that's her name?
Yes.
So recently I went to have breakfast at one of my favorite restaurants in Kingston, right? And I met this gentleman, and he was saying to me, "Hey, I've seen your videos and I like what you're doing, and I'm really interested in digital marketing and releasing digital products, etc., etc." And then the conversation went on basically, and he was saying that he's pretty young. I think he's in his early 20s, and he's saying that, how do you get people to take you seriously? I'm so young. How do I get people to see me as an expert? So that's a question I have for you. How does someone with very limited experience productize themselves and create a product that the market will want, or that will resonate with the market at that very young age when you don't really have a lot of experience?
Yeah. So I would say, one, I was helping kids get like full scholarships that were worth at least, for some of them, $250,000. And I was doing this from my college dorm room. So if you asked me back then, I would say, pretend you're older. That's what I did when I was in college.
Yeah.
Like I tried really hard not to let people know how old I was, because I thought they would not take me seriously if they knew how old I was. I thought they would not pay me what I was charging. I was charging about $700 for people to work with me. So I thought, if they don't know how old I am, they're going to take me seriously. Eventually, I realized, especially now that I'm in consulting and I'm working with people who are way older than me and giving them advice and leading teams and, leading my own team, leading their team, I realized that my age doesn't matter.
Right.
Very few people even ask. Very few people ask about my educational background. Very few people ask about, like my background in general. They essentially trust my process and trust what I'm putting forward. So in terms of, if you want to show up as an expert, even if you feel like you don't have the expertise, I want you to actually focus on what it is that you do and how you do it. So I also want us to think about, like, what do we mean by expert?
Right.
What does that mean? So I used to think that it meant that you had to put in like 10,000 hours, like they said. You had to make like $1 million or even $1 billion. I thought that you had to have books and, the fancy website to be an expert, until I realized that's not it. If you can consistently get from point A to point B on something very specific, so if you know how to create a social media post that can go viral in seconds, or if you know how to help somebody gain 400 followers in 30 days, and you just know how to do that, you've never gotten them to 1 million, but you know how to get somebody 400 followers in 30 days, you're an expert at that. If you can consistently do that, get yourself from point A to point B, then you are an expert in that. So if you want people to take you seriously, first take yourself seriously.
Right.
First understand that, like, when it comes to being expert enough, you can be an expert in point A, getting people from point A to point B, or getting yourself from point A to point B. And that's the way that you now put it forward to your audience and say, hey, I might not know everything else. I might not know how to get you from point A to point Z, but guess what? I can get you from point A to point B, and be confident in how you get people from point A to point B, and stick to getting people from point A to point B. So in terms of getting people to take you seriously, you want to be confident in knowing that no matter what, if you want to get from point A to point B,
You are the person.
I can get you there,
Right.
and be confident in that. And that's where feeling like you're an expert comes from. And if you can confidently say, hey, I can get you from point A to point B, if you can confidently say that, then people tend to believe it. And now you just have to show up and show out.
Yeah.
So I was in I had my mentor literally say something recently. He was just like, how you know you're an expert is when people pay you for your expertise. It's not, it's not when you make $1 million,
Right.
or when you like do something a bunch of times. It's when people pay you for your expertise. That is when you're an expert. So that's my best answer.
That's a very important principle, actually, that I think anyone who is looking to do this should understand and live by, right? Because sometimes when you think about expertise and being considered as an expert, we think we have to know everything in that field, right? But it's very important that you know exactly what you're capable of. And once you can do that repeatedly, then you can consider yourself an expert in doing that one specific thing. Very important message.
Yeah.
All right, so what I want to do now is to dive into a little bit of specifics, some of the things you have spoken about in your ebook, right? Which is out now that you can download at the link in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching on IG, link in bio, or you can visit Krista's IG, and I'm sure you'll find that book. But in the book, you spoke about a 5-step process to productization, right? To productizing yourself. So I want you to dive into that 5-step process, because I think this will be the most important bit of information that a lot of the viewers are dying to hear. So let's talk a little bit about that. What's the 5-step process?
So I actually have a 5-step method that I call the profit on demand method. And I have been using this method for as long as I can remember, probably about since college, to actually create offers. So I would have used this method to create offers that were $10 and used to create offers that I would have sold for about $15,000 a month. So it really can work for any type of offer that you're creating. So the first step in the process of creating a product that you can actually sell based on your expertise is first figuring out what's your secret sauce. So in the coaching industry, it's called your signature process, your signature framework, whatever people are calling it, because everybody has their own different word, because everybody wants to have their secret sauce. So if you, the first thing that you want to do is create this secret sauce, or figure out what your secret sauce is. What are those specific steps that you take to get your clients results every single time? And it's like, no matter who comes through the door, whenever I have to get somebody results in this particular area, I take these specific steps. If you don't have steps, that's the first thing. Like, we want to definitely start there, because that changes everything for you. When I was able to actually come up with like what my secret sauce was, I was able to feel definitely more expert in what I do, but I was also able to easily convey to other people what I did and why they should pay me money, because I don't do what the person down the street does. You can't say, oh, I can get this cheaper down the street. You might think you can, but nobody does it in this specific way that I do it to get the results that I get you. So you can try to go get it for cheaper, but I promise you're not getting my secret sauce cheaper down the street. You're not getting the profit on demand method down the street, because I created this. This is my method. This is my secret sauce, and only I can execute it, right? So you start with your secret sauce. Then you now go to actually creating the offer. So how do you do that? You focus on 2 things: packaging and positioning. So when it comes to packaging, you now have to figure out, how do I want to deliver my secret sauce? If I'm creating a product, how do I want to do it? You can do an ebook, you can do like a video training, you can do a masterclass, you can do a checklist, you can do whatever you want it to be. So you then want to now actually create the offer and think about, how do you want to deliver your secret sauce? Next is now positioning. Think about your secret sauce in its entirety, right? What part of your secret sauce can you use to solve a problem for your audience? Or maybe it's the entire secret sauce that you're about to package and sell, but how can a part of it or the entire thing now solve a specific problem for your audience? And then once you figure that out, you want to outline, how is this going to change my audience's life? So and that's where the positioning comes in. What are they going to get from it when they decide to invest in this solution that you've created? So that's the second step. The third step now is you actually want to create a launch plan for your process. So you want to now say, okay, I have this product. How do I now put it in front of my audience? How do I now put it in front of people who could want it? Because now you know exactly who it's for, what it's supposed to do, and you know exactly how it's going to be brought to the public. So you come up with your launch plan and say, how do I consistently get this in front of people? How do I get people excited about this before I even put it out? That's your launch plan. I always say that nothing kills a good product like a bad launch plan. Like, if you don't know how to get it out there, like, don't put it out there. If you don't know how to consistently get it out there so it can make money for you, don't put it out there. So that's step 3. Step 4 is now you want to create a plan, an ongoing plan that you can stay with consistently, that's going to continue to sell this product for you. Because typically what happens, if people get the launch part down, where they say, okay, here you go, world, and they generate like a bunch of sales in the first day, or they generate a few sales, and then it drops off and they go, oh, the product failed. The product didn't fail. Like, like, you know, you didn't have a consistent plan for selling it after your launch period, right? A launch is just, hey world, here it is.
Right.
But you want to have something that's going to say consistently, don't forget to come back.
Right.
Don't forget that if you didn't want to buy it, then it's still here. Here's what it's going to do for you. Here's how it's going to change your life, right? When you have all of those things together, that's when I say now launch. Now put it out to the public. Now say, hey world, here it is. And now put your plan in action, both your launch plan and your sales plan.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks.
Well, I'm definitely going to be following that. So let's dive into, I think this is a perfect segue for this follow-up that I have. So now that you've launched, right?
Yes.
You've given us the 5-step process as, you know, how to do it. How do you actually get customers? How do you get clients once you've launched, right? So you have your beautiful products well packaged, but you're used to getting clients where you actually execute a specific task for them, right? How do you actually get clients now for a service, for a digital product that you have created? Yeah.
So this is actually my favorite thing ever. So my favorite thing is, like, besides creating the product and knowing who I want to create it for and what I want it to do, my favorite thing is now finding the people that it would work for. So the big mistake that a lot of people make when they're creating products is just like, oh, it's for everybody. And I by now everybody should see online, like it's a thing now where it's like, if it's for everybody, it's for nobody. Like, if it's for everybody, then you cannot speak to somebody specifically. So when I create products, I have someone specific in mind. I'm not just like, oh, this could work for 6 different people. No, this is working for one person. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find 100 people like that one specific person. So if you're online, so I'm going to use Instagram because that's typically where I do a lot of my marketing. If you are online and you are about to sell a fitness product that helps people to lose 5 inches off of their waist in 5 weeks, you want to go find people who are, one, interested in fitness, who currently have a fitness regimen, and then people who are currently struggling with that. So and I say people, but I mean, now I want you to choose, do you help men, or is this product supposed to be for men, or is this product supposed to be for women? Because the words that you use to sell it, which is your messaging, needs to specifically target that person. So I want you to think about, where can you go find them? Where are they hanging out? So you don't just post and hope that people find you. I always say, go find them. Go find them where they are, go follow them, go interact with them, bring them back to your timeline, let them know that you have this thing that's going to solve their problem.
Right.
How do you let them know that it solves their problem? Well, in your content that you're putting out, which is really, really important, with your content that you're putting out, you want to specifically speak to the problems this person is having. So if this person wants to lose 5 inches off their waist, you don't talk about losing 5 inches off of your thighs if it's not going to help with your waist. Right. Those aren't the same thing, right?
No. And it makes a lot of sense. You have to be very specific, is basically what you're saying.
You have to be so specific. Like, when I say specific, I mean literally every day you're getting better and better at figuring out what the problem is that your target audience is currently having. What are they saying? What are they stressed about? Like, what is really causing them to not be able to lose 5 inches off of their waist? So is it that you can provide them, like, is it that you can, your product should now say, hey, here's how you eat better, here's how you do all these things, but you want to essentially go find people who are just like, I am having the biggest problem with trying to lose 5 inches, or not necessarily even 5 inches, but they're having the biggest problem with just like losing, they want the waist area to be smaller, and you're saying my product will help you lose 5 inches, and they're just like, well, good enough for me, I'll try that. And
Awesome. Let's continue down this line of being specific, right?
Let's go. I'm ready. Let's go.
What are some of the tools that you would have used in your service business that you think are generic enough that a lot of people will benefit from? What are some of the most important tools that you use or that you would recommend?
So I definitely recommend to start. So in terms of like when I started, in terms of I was in college, I was hungry, I did not have a lot of money. Like the money I was getting from my clients had to go directly back into my business, as well as like supporting myself. You want to use Instagram, you want to use social media, you want to be where your clients are hanging out. So you want to start there. I typically don't say that you have to master all social media platforms. Go where your audience is hanging out. So start with social media. The next thing I would say is, in terms of getting paid, I would use PayPal. Really helps. Like having a PayPal. At the time when I was starting out, I used to use ClickFunnels, but that can be a little bit pricey. So a substitute for that would be just getting like a Wix page, like a Wix website, getting like an official domain, and you can do like drag and drop stuff by yourself. Like it doesn't have to be pretty. A lot of people do not care about pretty, especially if you're going for just a product that is like less than $100 or less than $200. You want to focus on how you're solving people's problems, and then just sending them to where they can actually purchase. So I literally would say Instagram, PayPal, and just like a super easy website to use, which is like Wix or Squarespace.
Let's talk about money. All right.
What about it?
How do you know how much to charge for your product?
Ooh.
Right. And when do you actually scale up to charging, a lot of money versus charging $7 for a product?
So definitely don't charge $7 for anything. For anything, like I don't care what it is. Do not charge $7 for it. Like so first you want to like not charge too low, because like you want people to take your solution as like an actual serious solution that can solve their problems. For $7, a lot of people won't think that it's an investment that would actually solve their problems. It just kind of looks like a cash grab a little bit. So I would more say, and actually somebody said it to me recently, they were just like, pricing is like one part science and strategy and the other part just magic. So when I was starting out, I remember testing like the one product that made me like at one point it made me $1,000 in a day. And I remember testing out that product with my existing audience, and I had sold it for $1. And that was just to see first if it would sell. And when it did, I was like, okay, I'm gonna raise this price. So then I inched it up to like, I think $35, and it sold at the same rate. And I was just like, okay, let's try $79. And it still sold. I was just like, okay. And then I tried $249 and it did not sell. I was like, okay, let's go back down to $79.
Right.
Because that seems to be where the sweet spot is. I kind of course, try, I can keep testing more, but I always say like, go with think about the value that you're providing. So you want it to be high enough that people take it seriously as an investment, but low enough that people don't need to get on a call with you, or they don't need you to like get on a webinar to sell it to them, right? You want something so simple that like people can be like, you know what, I'm gonna make this investment. It's a no-brainer. Like I see enough of your content. It doesn't break the bank. I see enough of your content to believe that it will work for me. Your messaging is spot on. It resonates with me. I'm gonna try it. So I would say it's part magic and then part strategy, like just kind of test out different prices. But honestly, like $7 is not it. People will pay more than $7. If you've done a really, really good job at saying this will solve your problem, think about what that transformation is worth and start there. So yeah.
Awesome. So for a lot of people watching, right, and for myself as well, we tend to be quite fearful when we're supposed to do anything like this, to launch a new product, a new service, whatever it is, right? Because we have seen other people try and they may have failed and they've made a lot of mistakes, etc. But now that you have been through that process, right? Share with us some of the mistakes that you would have made, and also how you actually overcame those mistakes, because that will help me and help us to understand how to navigate the waters when the waters gets troubled. So I've made a ton of mistakes. Like I said, for a long time I was trying to like piece together things, figure it out. I would definitely say the first thing is understanding that like when it comes to sales, it's all about like testing stuff. It's all about like seeing what works. I would say the first thing is you want to first pay attention to what you're saying to yourself. So a lot of people will get scared about trying something and failing because of what they say to themselves and also what they say about other people when they fail. So pay attention to the voice that is speaking to you. Pay attention to the people that are speaking over you as well, because that's the first step to even trying anything. What is that voice telling you? Like when you think about the possibility of failing,
is that voice saying, I told you shouldn't have done it. You're terrible. You're awful. Right. You're never going to make it in life. Like, you need to first address that voice before you do anything. The second thing now is in terms of the mistakes that I've made, in terms of like practical mistakes. The most recent mistake that I made, like very recently, so I still make these mistakes because again, sales is a science. So the most recent mistake that I made was like, I had like a ton of traction with like one product, and then another product started taking off. So I was like, I'm going to put my energy over here and I'm going to focus on here. And I left that audience. It was a different space. So I literally let that product kind of like go by the wayside, and I stopped talking to that audience. I stopped, showing up for them. And when I came back to sell something, they were just like, we don't want this. Right. We don't want you. Like, you don't love us anymore. Right. So I did everything that I would have done the last time, but it didn't work because I no longer had a relationship with them. So think about like when you're selling, as it is a relationship, no matter what. Even if you're selling to a brand new audience and a complete stranger says, I'm going to buy, because strangers will buy from you. Think about still the relationship that you're creating with them through your content, through your messaging, through how you're contacting them. It's all a relationship. So that was the first mistake, just not nurturing my audience and just kind of showing up like, hey, I know what your problems are, buy from me. And that kind of leads me to the second thing, where you don't want to assume what people's problems are. You want to actually be able to ask, which is why it's super important to know who you're creating products for and what problem you're trying to solve, because you want to be able to speak to specific people and say, can you tell me exactly what you're struggling with so I can use your words to sell this product. You want to be able to use people's words that they're using about their problems, about their stress and their struggle, to say, my product will solve this specific problem for you, and go find more people who are having this problem. So I would definitely say that a mistake that I've made is assuming that I knew what people's problems were, as opposed to just asking them what their problems were. And then other mistakes were definitely like not understanding that it's a science. Again, going back to what I said initially. So I remember being in college, and I remember consistently, like I used to have like above my bed like $10,000 in like post-it notes, because I love me some post-it notes. I used to have like $10,000 above my bed, and every time I did a webinar, because I was selling through webinars, every time I would do a webinar, I was just like fixated on trying to make $10,000. I was just like, okay, if 50 people show up and like 49 people buy at this price, I'll make 10,000. But I didn't understand that like there is a science to selling online, and I had to learn that science. So there are specific averages that people tend to do when you show up for a webinar. So if 50 people registered, I should have known that 25 people are going to show up, and then depending on the price point, maybe 1 to 4% will actually buy. So if I wanted to have more people, if I wanted to hit 10,000, I would need more people, as opposed to being mad that the people who showed up did not actually get me my 10,000. So I just want to say that it's a lot of patience, a lot of learning, and understanding that it is a science. And that was probably some of the mistakes that I made early on, and some mistakes that I'm still making now, where just understand that it takes time, right? And it takes practice, and it takes just truly listening to your audience and figuring out what do they want.
Amazing. All right, so we're kind of wrapping up. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, sure, and then we sign off. But I want to ask you, what's the one question that you wish I had asked you, something that you think the audience would most likely want to hear that I just didn't cover? What's that one thing?
So I don't know if it's specifically a question, but I would love for us to speak to like the mindset aspect of it a little bit more, where a lot of people don't feel like they're good enough at anything to sell a solution, right, or to sell a product, or a lot of people don't feel like they are at a place yet where they can even do that. And I want to go back to that point A and point B type of thing, where I need people to understand that like there is magic in how you do what you do, and you do not need to be a millionaire. You do not need to be in the papers all the time. You do not need to be running like a have a whole team behind you to say that I am an expert and I'm gonna help people. Your experiences are valuable. There are people who are where you were that are praying to be where you are now, And if you know how to get there, I always say share it. And I also believe in profiting from your experience because, you know, you would have went through it. Like for me, like there was sweat, there was blood, there was tears. It was a lot. So I definitely believe in packaging it and selling it. But there is somebody who is waiting for you to actually share your experiences, and you're keeping them inside thinking that they're not important. Right. There's somebody praying right now, asking God, how can I get from point A to point B? And you are sitting on that solution when you can actually package it, put it out there, and change your life and change their life. So that was something that I have been learning more recently. And that's something that I want other servicepreneurs to know, that when you put yourself out there, your story out there, when you put your expertise and your experiences out there and say, I'm going to use this to get somebody from point A to point B and change their life, like, that's really, really important, and there's Absolutely. Value in that. Yeah. So I think that's probably the most important thing.
Awesome. So what I want you to talk to us about now is your consultation business, right? What kind of services do you offer to the public, and how can you actually help someone who is interested in this space? So talk to us about your offer and how you can help someone who is interested.
Sure. So at this moment, there are two ways that people can work with me. Personally, work with my team. So a person can do a VIP experience that I now offer. It's called the Profit on Demand VIP experience, where essentially in one day I help them leverage their expertise to create what I call an on-demand offer that generates passive income for your business. So I will walk you through the entire 5-step process that I have and help you actually put out a product that you can start profiting from day one. Another opportunity is to work with me in a mastermind session. And this session is essentially going to be a session where we do a deep dive into your business. We uncover what's truly holding you back from hitting your revenue goals. And then we're going to create a clear and concise action plan to help you hit those goals.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Krista. I have no further question for you, but I've learned so much, and I'm sure the audience would have learned a lot as well. I know you have your new ebook just launched once again, which I'm going to link up so everyone can actually get a copy and read it. It's awesome. I really love the way you put it together. I love the colors. I love absolutely everything about it.
Thanks.
So once again, thank you so much for joining. I'm really, really appreciative, and I look forward to having you again in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.